And Judge Neil Gorsuch will take his seat on the U.S. Supreme Court for the first time on Monday following 2 scheduled swearing-in ceremonies. The private ceremony will be held at the Supreme Court Monday with Chief Justice John Roberts, who will lead the constitutional oath of office. Afterwards, a more public ceremony will be held at the White House with Justice Anthony Kennedy swearing in the old law clerk. One America's Kelly Ayers has more on the significant cases that Gorsuch will be a part of.
With 9 justices on the U.S. Supreme Court, several cases before the High Court are no longer in limbo. Neil Gorsuch will be on the bench in time to hear oral arguments in 13 cases scheduled for April alone. His first official day at work will be on Thursday, April 13th, when the court decides which cases to hear. That could include a religious freedom case of whether a baker from Colorado can refuse to design a cake for a same-sex wedding. Gorsuch's first oral arguments will be heard the following week on April 17th. One case that was delayed in 2016 and thought to be one that could have ended in a 4-4 tie deals with the separation of church and state. Trinity Lutheran Church of Columbia. This one involves a church in Missouri that wanted to use money from a state program for nonprofits to make a playground safer for kids with recycled rubber tires. The church was rejected based on a state law that restricts government funds from being given directly to religious-based schools. Arguments are scheduled for April 19th. Arguments in a case to be heard at the end of April could have a big impact on immigration. It involves an ethnic Serb from Bosnia who was accused of lying to immigration officials about why she came to the United States. The 6th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that her citizenship could be taken away because of false statements. There are other possible hot-button cases that Gorsuch could hear in the future. President Trump's latest travel pause from 6 different nations could end up in the High Court after a federal judge in Hawaii blocked it in March. Shortly after that decision came down, the commander-in-chief made a promise to a crowd at a rally in Tennessee.
This ruling makes us look weak, which, by the way, we no longer are, believe me. We're going to fight this terrible ruling. We're going to take our case as far as it needs to go, including all the way up to the Supreme Court.
That could happen based on what the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco decides about the case in mid-May. At the same time, 6 states are suing, claiming the revised executive order is unconstitutional. However, the president's revised order does not even mention religion. Then there's the Civil Rights Act that bases discrimination on race, color, religion, national origin, or sex. The 7th Circuit Court's decision announced on Tuesday that the 1964 Civil Rights Act does protect LGBT employees from discrimination. That conflicts with past rulings in federal courts. And while the community college who lost in this case against the Indiana teacher has said it will not appeal to the Supreme Court, this type of conflict could bring a case like this before the High Court. Abortion could come up at some point as well, with several states passing laws to restrict the procedure that are being challenged in the lower court system. Arkansas's plans to execute several death row inmates in April in a 10-day period is developing on a daily basis. The High Court might be asked to consider one or more of the prisoners' cases. Kelly Ayers, One America News.